Alright folks, today we are diving into the world of wheels with the 38dB Pro Yeoleo wheel set. As always, I've got a lineup of tests to challenge their quality, so stay with me to see if these wheels are more than just a pretty face in the ever-expanding world of carbon wheels. Unveiling the wheels, both are tucked in snugly and securely with an extra layer of padding. Unlikely that these wheels are going to get damaged in transit. And in the box we've also got 2 extra spokes thrown in. Only 2 though, usually we get 4. Don't know if that really matters, but fingers crossed I'll never have to use these anyway, so they're just a backup. Now, the inclusion of tubeless valves is a delightful surprise though, not something that I've found with many wheel sets. However, there is no tubeless rim tape that's missing in action. Now, it's worth noting that these wheels can be set up tubeless or tubed. You can take your pick. I'm sure the old school butyl tube lovers will appreciate these wheels. Now, the carbon fleck on these wheels is probably going to be turning heads. Pun intended. Ow. Now they have this ability to sort of shimmer differently depending on the light that fancies them. As for the decals, they're the strong but silent type. Now they're present but not screaming for attention, unlike those sort of look at me wheels with decals that might as well be a billboard. And because I'm a stickler for detail and might be slightly obsessive, I scoured every inch of both the front and rear wheels, and I'm happy to report they're pretty much spotless, top marks for visual quality. When we're examining the sizing for these wheels, the depth should be 38 as its name suggests. In our assessment, our measurements range from 37.9mm to 38.5mm, giving us an average of 38.15. This indicates that we're very much within the expected ballpark. Now, turning our attention to the inner rim width, which should be 20mm. I got measurements from 19.8mm to 20mm. The inner rim width is probably the most important of these measurements as it significantly influences the tyre profile. Our average measurements for the inner rim was 19.875mm, but it remains within the acceptable margin in my opinion. Let's dive into the rear wheel sizing, ensuring that it aligns with the manufacturer's specifications. Now, starting with the depth, again it should be 38mm. Our measurements yielded figures from 38.1 to 38.2, so pretty much spot on. The average was 38.125. Last but certainly not least, the inner width of the rear wheel, as per the manufacturer, is 20mm apparently. Now, our measurements fluctuated slightly between 19.6 and 19.8, resulting in an average of 19.7, so similar to the front wheel and slightly below the 20mm. Diving into the spokes, we're looking at the Black Pillar Wing 20 Aero spokes. Now, they've got a sort of blade to them. They're not a simple round shape. When we put these to the test, the spokes actually measured at 1.9mm deep. These spokes are the straightforward sort, literally with a straight pull design. They go directly from the hub to the rim, no twists or turns or the customary J-bend, just straight to the point. These spokes are a 2-cross pattern where they basically cross twice, once by the hub and then another time further away from the hub. Now, the spoke patterns vary from wheel to wheel, but this 2-cross pattern seems to be the one that I come across the most. On the second cross, the spokes are also touching. Now, I've read various info on this. Some do it by design, some don't do it. Now, the touch can provide a bit of lateral support, which some builders believe offers extra benefits. Other wheel designs intentionally avoid the spokes touching at the second cross. This can be due to different opinions on the merits of the spoke touching, or simply because the design of the components means there's more space for the spokes. People say that sometimes spokes actually touching can cause like a sort of pinging sound when the wheels are new or sort of bedding in. Some say that it can improve lateral stability of the wheel, especially during strong sided loads. It appears some spokes are touchy, others like to maintain their boundaries. Curious about your thoughts on this. Now, do drop them below because I'm intrigued. The front and rear both have 24 spokes, 12 on the drive side and 12 on the non-drive side. This is the first set I've tested where spokes are equal on both sides. Typically on the rear wheel, the drive side, where the gear or the cassette is located, spokes are under greater tension than the non-drive side spokes. Now, to accommodate the space taken up by the cassette, for example, the hub flange on the drive side is positioned more towards the center of the wheel compared to the non-drive side. This means that the drive side spokes have to be at a steeper angle and usually at a higher tension to maintain the wheel's lateral integrity. Now, when we check the spoke tensions, I first measured every spoke using a digital spoke tension tool from AliExpress. This was a risky purchase, but turned out pretty damn good. I then put all the measurements into the Park Tool Spoke Tension app. Now for the front wheel, all the measurements came up good. Even when we changed to a variance of 5%, we have all green ticks. Lovely jubbly. It was the same story for the rear wheel. Everything came out green, which is great to see. So overall, these spoke tensions are good out of the box. I will recheck the spoke tensions once I have put these wheels through their paces out on the road. My 80 kilos plus the London roads, I'm sure will give these a true test. Before we dive into the heart of our wheel trueness investigation, let's lay down some basics. Radial trueness. This is how basically circular the wheel is, ensuring that it doesn't have lumps or bumps or dips. And lateral trueness. This gauges the wheel's sort of side to side wobble. So if you're looking at it from behind and it was like this, you'd have some serious problems. So we've got the rear wheel and we're looking at radial trueness. Now, how do we test this? We can do it a number of ways. We can do it the first way, which is a very sort of archaic, which is by pressing a metal arm against the rim and listening. And basically, if there's no lumps or bumps, it will be a constant sort of scraping sound. If there is, it will be like a scrape, 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 scrape. And you can look and sort of see and hear the rhythm to see if there is a shift. And then you know it's not true. The wheel seemed all good to me, very little variance, and to the naked eye as well, when we spin the wheel at high speeds and look at the sort of deviation to the stand, you can see a small gap and a slight variation, but you have to look very, very close indeed. Next up, we can use a dial indicator, and this is far more accurate, and this allows us to measure minuscule deviations with pinpoint accuracy. Now to set it up, we place it on the arm of the bike stand and press it against the wheel. Now once it's in place, we can then spin the wheel and then we zero the dial to its lowest point. This gives us a baseline for the measurements. We then spin the wheel again and check the deviation from zero. We got 0.5 millimeters, which is pretty damn good. Now each notch on this dial indicator is 0.01 millimeters. So the whole dial indicator, one full rotation, is just 1 millimeter. We then looked at the radial trueness for the front wheel. Now in the sound test there was not much deviation, which suggests good uniformity. Doubling up with a dial indicator again, the variance was confirmed at a minuscule 0.25 millimeters. Well within the realm of very good. Moving on to the lateral trueness, we listened again for variations as the rubber jaws of the stand are screwed towards the rim. The result, barely a whisper of difference. Now when the dial indicator took the floor, it backed up our observation, measuring a mere 0.22 millimeters of deviation. So again, very, very good. Once again, the front wheel wanted to impress us. Minimal deviation was observed audibly, and the observation was visually reinforced when we sort of spun the wheel rapidly. Anyway, we grabbed the dial indicator and we had 0.2 millimeters of deviation. I've done quite a few wheel reviews, so I've made this table that looks at the average deviation of all 4 trueness checks across each wheel set. Now these wheels come in 4 from all the wheels that I've tested so far. Onto the hubs, and the ones used in these Yeoleo wheels are the 230 SPCLDB. Everyone loves a good abbreviation, and no one has a clue what that means.
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative.
No, it's not. It
gets the people going.
This is a ratchet style hub and it has 52 teeth inside. Next we can observe their performance, and this is one of my favorite things about testing these wheels. Now both the front and rear hubs offer a remarkable smoothness. This is particularly evident with the front hub. Now if you give it a hefty spin, it seems to continue in perpetual motion. It literally just goes and goes and goes. Very satisfying indeed for someone like me in my shed. I also spun the wheels in my hand because when it's spinning in your fingers, if there's issues with the bearings, you will feel it. However, it was pretty much absolute smoothness, reinforcing the visual observation as illustrated in all these beautiful shots of the wheel spinning. Now the claimed total weight for the wheels is 1,440 grams with a permissible deviation of plus or minus 15 grams. When observing the actual weights, the front wheel registers at 687 grams and the rear wheel tips the scale at 765 grams. It is a combined weight of 1,452 grams for the set. In the grand scheme of things, a wheel set weighing 1,452 grams is commendable. Think about how light that actually is, under 1.5 kilos. You can really notice it when you're handling them. They are really, really light, featherweights. For the price, they are a decent lightweight wheel set. Now, after I've given them a hard test out on the road, I'll be able to give you my final verdict and see if these wheels are worth purchasing, but on initial inspection, they definitely are. Now, if you like this video, you may also like this one where I test a similar priced wheel set, and subscribe to see the 500-mile review of these wheels, which will be coming in the near future. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.